So, page 43 in your science book. And follow along as I read. Everybody ready? Good. When Jean-Henri Fabre was a boy growing up in France over 150 years ago, scientists knew very little about the lives and habits of insects. Many people had made collections of dead insects, but Fabre was the first to devote his life to observing and describing the behavior of living insects in their natural habitats. He wrote 10 books, wow, for adults describing what he saw in the fields and gardens around his home, and also delighted French school children with his famous science textbooks, which combined careful descriptions of nature with testimonies to Fabre's own faith in the God who designed and created the natural world. So, isn't that refreshing? Somebody who taught science, but they taught it from a Christian perspective. Remember how we were learning in Bible about creation? That makes all the difference when you look at science. Because when you look at it from an evolution point, it looks totally different. Yeah. So, Jean-Henri Fabre was born in a small village in France to a poor French peasant family. What's a peasant? Like a farmer, a common person. Like Henri, okay, not that a farmer is a common person, but then it was. A person who studies nature. From his earliest childhood, keenly observing the world of grasshoppers and sparrows, snails and lizards, and always on the lookout for beetles and water weeds and bits of fossils. Sounds like some of you guys. In the icy winter, he and his family had to live in the barn to keep warm by the heat of the animals and of the decaying dung and hay. Okay, so decaying dung and hay actually give off some heat. In the hot summer, it was Henri's job to drive the ducks to the pond each day, giving him time to engage in nature study along the way. His one-room, one-window country schoolhouse was often filled with pigs and chickens that wandered in, but the boy learned to read and write and do arithmetic here, and even began the study of Latin. Henri worked his way through high school and college, and then taught for many years in the French schools. His students loved him, but he was fired from one teaching job because he allowed girls to attend his science classes. Girls were just supposed to stay home and cook and clean. They weren't allowed to learn about science.
Not nice.
Okay, aren't you glad you girls can learn about science?
Yeah.
Okay. Not that it's bad to stay home and cook and clean, but it's also good to be able to learn things. Throughout his life, Henri Fabre spent every spare moment with the insects that he found so fascinating. He did important research on bees, wasps, beetles, grasshoppers, and crickets. He discovered the importance of instinct in insects and described very carefully how insects behave together. Not until he was almost 80 years old, however, did others recognize the importance of his scientific work. He is now known as the world's greatest entomologist, which we learned is a scientist who studies insects. When Henri Fabre was about 35 years old, an English naturalist named Charles Darwin published a book about evolution. Darwin said that God did not create the living world as we know it, and as the Bible says. Darwin believed that all living things developed somehow over vast ages of time. He said that invertebrates, like insects and jellyfish, slowly turned into vertebrates, like fish, lizards, and horses. He said that there were no people at first, but then some tree-dwelling, monkey-like creatures with tails, hairy bodies, and pointed ears gradually developed into people. Of course, Henri Fabre knew this was a false and silly idea. The Bible says that God created everything in the world and that he made the first man, Adam, from the dust of the ground, not from a creature like a monkey. When many other people started believing Charles Darwin, Jean-Henri Fabre kept right on believing God instead. Fabre had observed the beautiful design of nature much too closely to believe that it could all be just an accident. He did not think that Darwin's hypothesis was a reasonable or sensible explanation of the wonders we see in the world around us. He declared, what kind of a sentence will it be? Declarative. I observe, I experiment, and I let the facts speak for themselves. The facts that I observe are of such a kind that they force me to dissent from, which means disagree with, Darwin's theories. Although many people of Fabre's day turned away from God, thinking that evolution was true, Jean-Henri Fabre, the great scientist, knew better. He testified, "Without God, I understand nothing. Without him, all is darkness. You could take my skin from me more easily than my faith in God." So the more we study creation, the more we believe in God, because we can see his hand in everything around us, in all of the creation. There's no way that it could just have happened. God has a design and God has a plan. Okay? So, for a couple minutes here, I want you to keep your book out. And tell you what, I'm going to do this. Okay, turn in your activity book. Oops. I know.
Wait, what page?
I didn't say yet. Okay, let's do, okay, I tell you what. We're gonna do pages 17 and 18 real quick. But Jacob and Alex, you need to go. So, you're gonna have to pack up. So make sure everyone knows the first insect, right? Praying mantis. Bye, boys. Have a good day. The praying mantis. Okay. Bye. Comes beside the praying mantis? The giant water bug. Good. Okay, and then the next one has the pinchers on the back. What is that called? An earwig. It's a funny name.
I've heard of them.
Mm-hmm. How many of you got those first three all by yourself? Good. Wow.
Wait, I just needed help on my earwing. Good.
Yeah, earwig. W-I-G. And then what about the one underneath the praying mantis?
Cricket.
Yeah, cricket. And then next to the cricket is a dragonfly.
I was so hard on
And then next to the dragonfly, Piu.
Stink bug.
Stink bug.
You
actually, I found that if you pick them up and carry them out, they don't stink you. But when you squeeze them or pinch them, that's when they squeeze you.
If you kill them.
So it's actually, I try not to kill them because they stink.
The
If
best
you
thing
vacuum
to do
them,
is
like if you scare them, that's when they let out their odor, seems like.
The best thing to do is just to flush them in the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can do that. Okay.
My dad makes a stink, and when we ever have a stink bug, he gets a cup and mixes some stuff with it,
Mhm.
and then just puts the stink bug in
Okay.
there and kills it.
Okay, that's a good idea. All right, what is underneath of the cricket? Everybody know that one? Good, a lace wing. And that one's kind of a giveaway because the wings look like they're made out of lace. Lace wing.
What is lace?
Lace is like,
Fabric.
it's a fabric, but it's kind of, that's hard to explain. Has holes all in it, but it's real pretty. I don't know how to explain it. It's like crocheted. What's next to the lace wing? Firefly. We're not used to seeing them so big.
Or a lightning bug.
Some people call them lightning bugs. Yes,
Which one is under the cricket?
that's the lace wing. I'm trying to put them kind of in order, so. And then next to the firefly is the grasshopper.
I almost brought grasshopper where the cricket is, and then I was like, then I just looked around and I was like, oh wait, that's a cricket, not grasshopper.
Okay, what's underneath of the lace wing? A mud dauber. Mud daub. Like you daub something with Noah and the ark. Noah daubed the ark with pitch, which is like a mud to make it, to seal the holes. We get mud daubers at our house. They make kind of like a mud tunnel. That's their hide.
What happens if you step on it? They stink.
They usually build it up in the corner. My husband knocks it down. I'm like, no, I need to save that for, but it crumbles, so it doesn't stay together. Okay, what is next to the mud dauber?
Ladybug?
Yes, ladybug.
I don't want to know what that last one is. It's Hades worm.
Right. You guys sure know your insects.
Yeah. And because there's a thing like this. I think the most interesting bug.
Oh yeah, you can look at the page before and use that as your guide.
This is iguana kind of.
Okay, on the back we have 6 that we need to do and then we'll be done.
Walking stick.
So what comes first? The
Walking stick.
Walking stick. Let me write this in real quick. And then what is next to the walking stick?
Hornet.
Okay.
What about wasp? I think wasps have a more
That is, it's a hornet.
And then I don't know the next one. I think it's a That's the back swimmer.
Back swimmer, right, because it's swimming under the water. See how it shows the surface of the water and it's underneath? Okay, and then we've got the flea.
I don't know what kind of moth is it. I know the moth.
Okay, this next moth is kind of a hard name. Polyphemus.
Yeah, silverfish is nice.
Right.
Probably what?
And then a silver. Polyphemus moth.
Is that one whole word?
2 words. Polyphemus is 1 word and moth is another word. And then we've got a silverfish. And then remember at the bottom, the difference between a monarch and the viceroy. What was the difference they said?
The monarch
extra
has
line at the
like
bottom.
this, like this little thingy at the end of their tail.
Right, so the viceroy, well, has this extra brown or black line in that bottom wing. So they're very similar.